And welcome back to another podcast with Mr. Hagan. And on this podcast, we're going to look at an example of the difference between implicit cost and explicit cost. And what that really means is we're going to look at an example between the difference between accounting profits and economic profit. So remember, an explicit cost is when money actually leaves the firm, when a firm actually pays for resources, pays for inputs. And so maybe this might be Maybe a little pizza place might buy tomato sauce or a pizza oven or something like that, and that would be an explicit cost. And so an accounting profit is your revenue minus all those explicit costs whenever money leaves the firm to go purchase inputs. And then we have economic profit. Now, an economic profit is the revenue minus the explicit cost, but then also minus implicit cost. And the implicit cost is really kind of captures that opportunity cost concept. It's the money that you could have made if you would have produced something else. It's the money you could have made if you would have produced something else. So if I have a little pizza place, my economic profit would be the revenue that I bring in minus, what I pay for tomato sauce and a pizza oven and workers and all that kind of stuff, minus the money that I could have made if I had opened, a hamburger joint or something along those lines. So that would be economic profit. And I did talk about that concept of implicit cost on a previous video. So let's just do an example of this, and then I think you'll see clearly. This is a very kind of simple example. So let's say that I am making a salary of $60,000 a year, and let's say that I'm considering quitting my job and going to get a job on making ties in some sort of textile business. So maybe I'm making ties, and I gather the following statistics or information, and I'm guessing that my revenue in a year would be $250,000 per year from selling say ties. And then to do this, I have to hire some workers. So I have to hire, let's say I hire 3 part-time workers, and I pay them all $15,000 per year. And then let's say that I'm going to need some capital, so I rent some sewing machines, and they cost $3,000 each per year. And I rent the first floor of an industrial building, and that cost me $6,000 per month. And then each year I have to buy $75,000 of raw materials, threads and needles and all that kind of different stuff. And so the question is, do I quit my job or not? Do I open the business and quit my job or not? What should I do? So to think about this, we're just going to use this as a way of calculating accounting and economic profit. So let's do accounting profit first. So my accounting profit, pi means profit, is going to be my revenue, which I estimate to be $250,000 per year. So let's pretend that that's true. $250,000 minus my explicit costs. Now, what are my explicit costs? Well, I got to pay 3 workers $15,000 each. So that's $45,000 per year. That's an explicit cost. That's money leaving my firm. I'm going to rent 3 sewing machines at $3,000 each per year. So that's going to be another $9,000 that's going to leave the firm, another $9,000 that leaves the firm. And then finally, I'm going to I'm also going to rent the first floor of an industrial building for $6,000 per month, and that would be $72,000 in a year. So minus $72,000, and finally, I'm going to need some raw materials. I'm going to need some raw materials, and I think that's going to be about $75,000 per year. So I pull out my calculator and I do my calculations. My $250,000 minus the $45,000 that leaves to pay the workers, minus the $9,000 that leaves in order to pay for the sewing machines, minus the $72,000 that's going to purchase or pay the rent on the industrial building, and then finally minus my raw materials. And after I do all that, I get an accounting profit of $49,000. Now, I could do a quick check here and I could say, all right, $49,000, that's less than the current $60,000 a year I'm making, so I'm not going to do it. I'm going to continue in my current job. However, let's imagine that if I didn't have a job and I was looking at this and I'd calculate these numbers and I'd say, oh, $49,000 per year income. Okay, that's not bad. That's decent income. I can live off of that. And then I decide to do it. But I never thought to go check how much money I could have made if I would have gotten a job. Like in the first example, when I already had a job, then obviously I'm doing that comparison. But if I didn't already have a job, I might just see the $49,000 number and just like it, and that'd be it. And never think about the reality that I could have made this $60,000 a year over here. So in other words, the accounting profit does not make me obviously think about opportunity cost, what else I could have done. It doesn't make me do that. Now, you could discipline yourself to do it, but what I'm saying is I'd rather have that just built right into the numbers. So if I calculate the economic profit, then then the economic profit, the very formula is going to build implicit cost, opportunity cost right into my calculation. So now my economic profit is going to be the $250,000 per year of revenue minus the $45,000 that I have to pay for the 3 workers, minus the $9,000 that I have to pay for the sewing machines. That was right here. Minus the $72,000 that I have to pay in rent, minus the $75,000 that I have to pay for the raw materials. All of that is the same. All of that is the same. That's the explicit costs right here. But then we're going to subtract one last thing off of this, and that's going to be the implicit cost, which is the $60,000 a year that I could have made if I did not open this little textile business. So I have to subtract off that implicit cost, that $60,000 that was not included up here in accounting profit. So after doing that, it's going to change the equation because, okay, right here, this is the difference. This $60,000, this is the implicit cost that we are now including in the calculation to get the economic profit. And so now I do my calculation and I say, oh, not only am I not making a profit, but I'm actually making an economic loss of $11,000. So if I open this business, I'm going to be $11,000 worse off than I otherwise would have been. And by the way, there's a lot of other things here that we could have included in this calculation. We could have included all kind of other opportunity costs, the interest they could have earned on money in the bank, and all that sort of thing. I don't want that level of complication. I just want to say that when we do economic profit, we are including the implicit cost in that calculation, and that forces us to think about our next best opportunity. Okay, so the accounting profit here, it tells me that I'm making an accounting profit, but the economic profit tells me that while I'm making an accounting profit, I am not beating my next best opportunity. I'm not beating my next best opportunity, and that's what economic profit makes us focus on. All right, so this has been another video podcast with Mr. Hagan. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you on the next podcast.